Thank you for joining us this morning. We're actually all as a team internally here super excited because this is the first time we've actually done a full summer series with the school districts and with Path to College. So I just want to introduce myself, tell you guys a little bit about Palm Beach Tech and what we do, and then I'm going to hand it over to Allie, our talent intern, who's actually the one who helped put all this together. So my name is Nikki. I'm the VP of Development for Palm Beach Tech. Our whole goal and mission is to build South Florida into a tech hub. So we do work with a lot of, actually people like yourselves, a lot of the school districts, a lot of the colleges, universities, headquartered companies here, and of course the talent, the actual people that are working in these companies. So we're trying to kind of connect the dots, make sure that we do everything from connecting people, helping with networking opportunities, helping with talent initiatives, and just making sure that with the whole goal in mind of building South Florida and Tech Hub, that we're connecting people, keeping people here for jobs. And just to give you an overview of some of the offerings that we have, is we do have everything from podcasts on Wednesdays to like panel discussions or community coffees on Tuesdays, or tech talks Mondays. There's a lot of things to get involved in. So if anybody on this call is not familiar with some of the things that we offer, if you go to our website, it's www.palmbeachtech.org. There is actually a section there where you can look up all of our events, and there's a full calendar. There's also a separate calendar that also has community events. So there's other like meetup groups, user groups in the area. So if anybody kind of wants to learn more about a certain technology, there's more than enough available. And I will make sure to drop some of those links in the chat as we go for anybody that's here in Zoom as well. And just to reiterate, I know before the call we said this, but for anybody that's watching live on Facebook or LinkedIn or anything right now, we are going to be recording this. So if anybody does have to cut out early or is going to be missing any of these pieces, we will be recording and making sure that you guys can find this afterwards. But I'm going to pass this over to Allie and have her just introduce herself and talk a little bit about what we're actually doing this morning here.
Hello, everyone. I'm Allie. Oops, sorry for that. Thank you, everyone, for joining us today. I would like to quickly introduce our partners and give you guys each an opportunity to just briefly explain what you guys are doing. So Tony, if you would like to introduce the Palm Beach County School District.
Yeah, thanks, Allie. Thanks for everything you've done to make this event happen, and thanks to Palm Beach Tech. Yeah, my name is Tony Ashe. I work in the Career and Tech Ed department. I am a specialist that oversees and supports our high school IT, arts and AV, and computer science programs. This is a really unique event, the opportunity to partner with Palm Beach Tech. And what this means for us, specifically with today's event, is we have the ability to hear from and learn from people in the tech industry. Quite a few of our career and tech ed teachers were in industry before they came to the teaching profession. They bring a wealth of knowledge with them, but being out of the industry for 2 years, 5 years, 10 years, a lot of things happen, especially with the tech industry. Obviously, things change on a moment's notice. This is such a great opportunity for us to learn from people in the industry, and not just the tech industry, but local tech industry. My hope here today is that our teachers are going to glean information that they can take into the classroom and help out their students with, to get their students geared up and prepared for the tech industry when they graduate. Keeping this partnership going is unbelievably important to us, even if for that one reason, so that our industry partners can communicate with our teachers and really let them know, hey, this is what your graduates need to have in their tool belt, so to speak, when they come and interview for jobs with us. So it's one of those reciprocating relationships where you help us, and we'll help you by making sure that our graduates are ready to come to work for you. So I just want to say thanks. I'm glad to be a part of this, and looking forward to what we're going to hear over the next 45 minutes to an hour.
Awesome. Thank you, Tony. Lisa, would you like to speak on behalf of Broward?
Yes, and I want to reiterate what Tony just said about building that pipeline. So I'm Lisa Milankovic from Broward Schools, and I'm in the STEM and Computer Science department, which sits in applied learning, kind of separate from secondary learning and elementary learning and career and technical ed, and we kind of all work together to build a pipeline from starting with pre-K all the way up through 12th grade and college and career readiness for specifically for STEM and computer science. And we also have, which a lot of you are welcome to help join us, we have the Broward Area STEM ecosystem, which is bringing in not only the school district, but nonprofits such as Girls Who Code and Black Girls Code and Boys and Girls Clubs and the libraries and the colleges. And so Broward College Nova and all the FAU and FIU into one large ecosystem to help amplify what we're doing and all coordinate everything that's going on to reach students in and out of school time. So we're excited for that and excited to work with the South Florida Tech Group to make sure that what we are preparing our students for is what everyone needs in the workforce. Thank you for including us this year, and look forward to this webinar and the other ones coming up.
Of course, thank you. All right, Lido from Path to College.
Sure, thank you, Allie. And like the others have said, thank you so much. This is a wonderful partnership with Palm Beach Tech, and we're really excited for what's to come, especially this career panel. My name is Lido Perez. I'm part of Path to College. We are a community-based nonprofit, and we help low-income, high-achieving students. So all of the students that want to excel and want to get ahead, but need a little help in terms of guidance and resources, if you're interested in trying to better yourself and reach your goals, we have a student open house coming up in January on Instagram Live. You can just check us out at pathtocollege.org. But yeah, we are excited to be part of this partnership because, as everyone is saying, there's now the need for a pivot online due to the pandemic and due to at-home distance learning. So this is really exciting, and I'm really hoping that our students and the students and the community at large get a sense of what careers and technology are all about. So yeah, thank you so much.
All right, thank you guys all for sharing. So just a little quick background of why we're doing this. In 2018, Code Palm Beach was established as Palm Beach Tech's effort to introduce K-12 students to computer coding and technology. Our mission to build South Florida into a tech hub includes our next generation of techies. We create a positive environment that promotes tech, coding, engineering, and robotics education. This summer webinar series is geared towards current high school students, those who have recently graduated, and their teachers. We not only want to expose students to STEM at an early age, but help nurture and support the love of STEM by keeping them engaged through high school and into college. Our webinar today, Career Paths in Tech, will expose students to different career landscapes, understand why they're studying something, and be made aware of their own skills and uniqueness to be able to envision their own potential career path. We are offering students and their teachers the opportunity to hear about 3 very different tech career paths from local successful tech professionals. We'll hear more about what they do, how they got to where they are, and how they're making an impact in today's world. Our speakers this morning are Meggie Soliman, Director of Strategic Innovation at DSS, Todd Albert, Founder and Lead Developer at Boca Code, and Kathy Underwood, Director of Data Analytics at Levatas. So I would love to start off with Meggie, if you're ready.
Sure. Good morning, everyone. I love talking to our future techies, so this is an exciting topic for me. I was actually a pre-med student going into college, believe it or not, and I was a pre-med student up until my second year. And one of my mentors, which was a teacher, so to my fellow teachers, you have such an impact and an influence on these students. And, one of the advice that they gave me was, you're pre-med, but you're a bio major. And what are you doing to stand out on this piece of paper? Because you want to go to med school at the time. That was what I was, focused on. And they said, well, you're just going to be an applicant. And what are you doing different to stand out? And that really was a light bulb went off for me. And they introduced me to bioinformatics. And bioinformatics is a marriage between computer science and biology. And I am so grateful that I went into that because at the time it was only a master's degree program. And I graduated from Milankovic College in New Jersey. And it is, that same mentor told me, the harder you work now in college, the easier it is going to be for you to get a job later. And truly, it was only 10 of us that graduated that year with a bioinformatics degree. And so, I'm sorry, I have allergies. So the bioinformatics degree is, excuse me, I'm sorry. So the bioinformatics degree is something that I wish that more colleges bring into their program. It's biology and computer science, and I am a little biased. I believe the tech industry in healthcare is always booming. We're in a time of crisis, everyone needs their healthcare. And so tech and health is huge. And so I realized that degree gave me a niche that a lot of people didn't have. And I didn't realize that until I was sitting around with clinicians and technologists, and I understood the developers. I understood what they were talking about, and I understood the doctors, and I was able to bridge that gap. And so one of the things that I would advise all students is, what are you doing to be different, right? You need to stand out. You need to stand out in the industry. As a hiring manager today, I'm leading innovations for applications at a software company. We develop software. We've been around for over 25 years, implementing software nationwide to all the VA hospitals and into the commercial sector. And as someone who can understand both areas, it really, really has helped me. And so I believe the future of tech is moving into artificial intelligence, machine learning. These are areas that, unfortunately, they're not in our programs. They're typically, well, at least back in 2007 when I graduated, it wasn't offered in our programs. And so if it's something that we can offer in our programs today, I would advocate for that. Because it's typically something that the students have to do outside of their degree, and so they have to get a certificate. And it's something that's becoming a requirement today in hiring. It's something that all tech industries are looking for. They're looking for these developers or development skill sets that are different. And so what I would advise is, what are you doing different? Where is it that you can stand out in your tech area or area of interest? And find something that you're passionate about, because I feel like when you're passionate about it, you're going to strive to be the best. And so find an area, whether it be healthcare or whatever it may be, just find something that you're definitely passionate about.
All right, awesome. Thank you for that. Todd, would you like to go next?
I'd love to. Hey, everybody. I'm Todd Albert. Allie, when she asked me to do this, she told me to just give a brief overview of how I got into this and where how my career path evolved and where it is. And I would have to say that it's not a short story and it's not a typical path that I took. I actually started coding when I was 7 years old and have been doing it ever since. I'll help you with the math. I'm 44. I've been doing this for 37 years. But what's interesting, I took coding classes in high school. I had an awesome computer science teacher. She did Fortran and Pascal, which back then were kind of new and great. Now nobody uses them anymore. And I had a guidance counselor who was pushing me into computer science and particularly software engineering as a career. And I was a rebel when I was younger. So if you told me to do something, I wanted to do the opposite. My parents told me to go to college. I didn't want to go to college. I didn't know what I wanted to be honest, but they pushed me. I went to college. I officially changed my major 7 times in my first 7 semesters. That's official. That's not like a whim I had that, oh, I like this. I had 100 of those. But officially, I went and changed my major 7 times in 7 semesters. And finally, the University of Florida said, if you don't get accepted into a college, you're out. So I had to settle on one. And I ended up getting really interested in science, in climate science, in glaciers and ice cores and paleoclimate, and we ended up at Ohio State studying ice cores with two of the preeminent glaciologists in the world, and doing research for NASA and doing research for NOAA and NSF. Ended up at the University of Colorado, ended up on a NASA fellowship. I was on the Greenland ice sheet doing research, developed smart stake technology for NASA, developed computer simulations of snowmelt for NASA that they're actually using in Arctic mesoscale models now. I spent time in Italy studying glaciers in the Alps, in Peru studying glaciers in the Andes, in Colorado in the Rockies studying snow. They don't have glaciers anymore. So I got to travel the world. I got to do some really cool stuff, and ended up in a career of academia, teaching, which I loved. I always loved teaching. Taught for over 15 years at middle school, community college, and university levels. Had my own program, and all the while I was programming. I was teaching some programming classes. Really loved it. And one day, a friend of mine pointed out that I was never going to make as much money as a professor as I would if I used my software engineering skills. So I left academia. I became a software engineer and moved here to South Florida. Connected with Joe Russo and Palm Beach Tech and everything. Really loved the community, and worked for many years as a software engineer, hiring junior developers that were coming out of code school, hiring, connecting with all those software developers. Got to work on game development, got to work on some really cool projects in real estate, medical field, so much. And then realized that, I was missing the teaching. I really missed the teaching. And also what I was finding is I was finding all these people that went to code schools or did training that they weren't happy with. There are some good schools down in Miami. There weren't really good schools up here in Palm Beach. So I started Boca Code, and now it's a brand new school. We're training, adults how to have careers in software engineering, game development, data analytics, Python, React, you name it, we're doing it. So really excited that my career, I went off on this tangent into academics, came back to software development, and now I'm combining the two and getting to teach software development. So it's not your typical career path. It's not one I recommend. I accumulated a lot of student debt on the way, but I really love the tech community here. I think there's a lot of great opportunities. I love what Palm Beach Tech is doing, and I have gotten to see firsthand some amazing career opportunities locally for software developers, for data analytics, for user experience design. There's so many, and even just within software development, you can, if you're the type of person who really likes the nitty gritty details and doesn't wants to know how things work, there's back-end development where you're really dealing with the business logic. If you really like that user experience side, you can work on the front end, you can work on design. If you kind of are like the big picture, there's architects that architect large software systems that don't deal with the nitty gritty details. So there's all these different types of software engineer. And I really like it's a career field where there's so much variety, but so much demand at the same time. So I advised a lot of students over the years, students who, you meet a million people that want to be a marine biologist and there's like 3 jobs a year, right? But they graduate 3,000 graduates every year vying for those 3 jobs. So finding a career path, kind of like what Meggie was saying, finding this, your niche, finding a path where there are opportunities for you, I think is really important. And with everything going on in the world today, everything's moving online, everything's digital. Our field is in high demand. And, even with high unemployment, I could stick my head up right now and get 20 job offers if I wanted to. So it's a very comfortable position to be in.
Awesome. Thank you, Todd. All right, Kathy.
Good morning, everybody. When I was asked to speak, I said, oh, my least favorite topic, myself. But then we were talking about education, and I really have a passion for education. And so I'm here today because of that, right? So my career has kind of ebbed and flowed over the years. When I first started out, like way back in high school, they always tell you to do what you like, and I had no idea. I'm like, I don't know what I like to do, but I know what I'm good at, right? I'm good at problem solving. I'm good at math. What can I do with this? And so a guidance counselor kind of helped me out. And I went on my path to getting a computer science degree. So started computer science. I started into development, right? So I was a C and Fortran developer, Todd, so I know that too. Nobody does that anymore. It's kind of it was at a little engineering company. And then I was doing business software, and I happened upon this startup company that was a data company. And this data company, what they were doing, and this was the early days of data aggregation, right? So aggregating public records data and then selling it out to the general public. As you guys know, there's many of these companies nowadays. But our startup kind of grew and grew, and I moved into leadership in there. And I thought, oh yeah, this is what I want to do. I want to be the boss. And so I decided to get my MBA to kind of round out my business experience to help my career forward. And then I was in that for many years. The startup grew big, very big corporate America companies like global steel manufacturers I worked for auto industry and very multi-billion-dollar companies. And, you know, after a while of being in that, I'm like, you know, everybody keeps telling me you're too hands-on to be a leader. And so that's when I decided to go back and said, okay, let's just get back to what I really enjoy, which is problem solving. And so that got me back to my Georgia Tech analytics degree, which I'm working on now. I'm not quite done. I know it said that in my bio that I am done, but I'm not quite done with my analytics degree. And that's kind of led me back into my more hands-on role at Levatas, which is another startup. And I kind of like the kind of startup mentality. You get to do a lot of things. You got to see different companies and kind of grow along the way. And then it's a lot of fascinating stuff going on out there in the industry. And so that's kind of how it got me to Levatas. So a couple of things that I wanted to kind of add on to what Maggie and Todd said for the students out there, because some of it is really doing what you like. And if you don't know what you like, don't stress. You'll figure it out. You got many, many years to figure it out. And your career might meander, but if you're like me and you're goal driven and you're very education driven, you know, I would suggest learn, especially in technology. You have got to keep up. You've got to keep growing. You've got to keep learning, whether it's conferences, online. Everybody kind of learns differently. If you like structured education, there's a lot of that out there as well. This newest degree I'm in is my first experience in online education, which is very different. You do have to be very self-motivated to do online education, but it's a very good tool for people who are busy and have to do things at night. The other thing that I want to give to students is don't underestimate the importance of soft skills. Soft skills being good listening, right? So if you're in consulting, you've got to be a good listener. You've got to kind of understand what the problem is that you're trying to solve. You have to kind of be creative thinker and problem solver, which is not like, you know, a coding skill, right? But it is required to do coding. You have to be creative and problem solving. The other thing, especially in consulting, you have to learn how to do is be able to verbally communicate with your client, because you're not always talking to techies. You're talking to business people, right? You have to be able to kind of bridge that communication gap between what is it they're asking for and not get too techie and what is it that I'm delivering, right? So in addition to your technical skills, you have to think about the business skills, just basic business knowledge, right? Business understanding about, you know, you're not just building the best, you know, tool out there, you're building something that's going to be useful to help your business users. And so those are the things that I think, in addition to the technology, that the students need to think about. And then technology changes, right? There's always a new coding tool to pick up, right? I know C, I know Fortran, I know, I did Pascal in college. That was a long time ago, right? But now it's Python. So pick up Python. If it's R, pick up R. Once you know one language, you can pick it up, right? It's just a matter of, keeping yourself fresh and keeping your learning going. And I'm very, very big proponent of education.
Thank you for that. Thank you, all three of you. You guys had some great words to say. So we have some questions, but if anyone here wants to ask, you can unmute yourself or just type in the chat box and we'll ask for you. But the first question I have here is, tell us about a moment you knew you wanted to be in tech. What was your light bulb moment? And any of you can go first, whoever.
I didn't really have like a light bulb moment, to be honest. The closest thing I had to that, honestly, and this might sound really shallow, was I remember back, it was like I think it was like right around my 35th birthday, and I was having a conversation with a buddy Tony of mine who was also in academics, and he was asking me what I loved about being in academics, and I said I love the freedom. He's like, well, what do you mean? And I'm like, well, I have the summers, I could travel. And he said, well, when was the last time you traveled over the summer, not for work? And I was like, well, I can't afford it, and he's like, so you don't have freedom, right? And he said, the computer skills you have, those are more valuable. And, in today's day and age, you need money to have freedom. And it might sound really shallow. I was not like that kind of commercial, like materialistic type of person. I don't see myself that way, but at the same time, coming from a place where you have a family and you are struggling to provide, to going into, this career that I always loved. I've been working in computers my whole life. I just had never really considered it as a career. And the idea that, wow, I could make a lot more money doing that, which I'm doing it anyway, than I'm making in academia. I still love academia. I still love education. I really respect my teachers. They've really shaped me over the years. And, so I didn't really, that to me was like the most light bulb moment. Other than that, it was when I was 7 years old and my dad plopped a Sperry workstation down in the house with this modem thing next to it where you plop the phone onto it and dial into a mainframe somewhere. And, there was a coding book on BASIC, and I started opening it. I connected, over the phone line and started coding in BASIC and, wrote my first Hello World program. And that was it. I was hooked from there.
Yeah, I don't think I had a light bulb. I don't think you get a light bulb moment in tech at all. I think really, for me, it was once I got exposed to it, I realized the possibilities and how versatile it really is. Like Todd was saying, you can go anywhere. Once you're in tech, you can go on the front end. You can become the liaison if you're more into, customer facing and understand. As long as you understand the tech, you can have that type of position. You can be on the design side. If you're more of an introvert, you can just stay into development. But it's such a versatile industry that I believe you really have to get your hands on it. And then you realize if you're someone who likes to create, I think you'll be passionate about it. And I just think that you need to find a niche. And one thing I wanted to add that may give someone a light bulb moment is that if you are starting off in the industry, get an internship. I think starting off an internship early gives you that exposure to see what it's like actually out in the industry versus in the classroom environment.
Yeah, I agree. I didn't really have a light bulb moment either. I just knew that I liked problem solving, and I got into technology, and it was interesting that I could actually make things happen. So that was pretty exciting. But it wasn't really, a light bulb going on for me. But one other thing that I would suggest that the students do is don't be afraid to try, right? Because sometimes it doesn't work out and that's fine. And I have interviewed so many people that were in different careers and all of a sudden they got into tech. Well, just try something and change early, right? If you really don't like it. And that's kind of what I did with, being in these really big companies. But technology is interesting if you like to problem solve and you're creative. You can do all kinds of stuff.
Yeah, I agree. There's definitely a lot you can do. So I saw a comment in the chat that said they're here to learn ways to make my online class more fun. So what advice would you guys give to STEM teachers who want to create excitement for their students?
I would say give them problems, real life problems to solve. I think part of development is feeling that you're making an impact. I'm sure Todd and Kathy can vouch for this. Whatever that they're developing, it's making operations go round. It's making, businesses function. And I think if they are solving a real world problem, not the hello world that we all had to develop. I still don't know where that's being used, right? If they're solving, doing something that they know they can see that where their impact could be, I think would really make a world of a difference. And with shift their mindset, that it's not just about coding. It's really about there's this end goal and operations behind it.
Yeah, I think especially today with the climate that we're in, everyone is looking to make an impact and towards social justice and so forth. So if you can solve a problem, a real problem, and it doesn't even have to be that great. Like I was just reading a story yesterday about this girl who programmed a device that goes in car seats. 12-year-old girl programmed a device that goes in car seats that monitors the temperature. And if the temperature exceeds a certain value, it alerts 911. So you don't accidentally leave your baby. It measures if the baby's in the car seat and then, and what the temperature is. So you don't have babies getting left in cars and so forth. But on the same token, as great as that sounds, sometimes that could be very daunting, right? To tell a student like, oh, go solve a world problem. That, if I was a student, I'd be like, I wouldn't know where to start. So sometimes, just starting simple with, simple coding challenges, that you could find online is maybe, like Kathy said, being able to program something and make it do something, make a computer do something. There can be excitement just in that. So while, some students need to see that kind of social justice or making a change in the world or solving some problem, sometimes it's just as simple as, giving them, hey, create something that outputs XYZ, and then they do it and they make it work, and it's really exciting. So there could be excitement just in the little things too.
Yeah, I'm just going to add on to that because I'm actually in online school now, right? And so I like to actually have hands-on doing something, right? So sitting and listening to lecture for 30 minutes, can be just exhausting, right? But if you give me something to do and do it in little chunks, it doesn't have to be big, to Todd's point, right? Just let's do, tell me something and then let's do something, and then tell me something else and do some more. Right. And then that kind of keeps them engaged and, awake, especially on some dry topics. That would be my suggestion.
Awesome. So we have a question in the private chat that says, how can I help my students find jobs? I need help building an advisory board that gets businesses involved with jobs and continuing education.
I would say reach out to local tech companies. I know, our company specifically has reached out to the education system to get involved. And so I believe tech companies are open. I would say reach out to them and ask, how can they get involved? Do they have internship programs? Do you have a mentorship program? I'm, just from firsthand experience, I believe that they would be receptive to that. I know, someone like myself, I'd love to mentor someone. So I think it's just, be proactive and reach out to local organizations.
I think the networking events are also a good place, right? So actually, once we get past all this COVID stuff and you can actually be in a room with people and getting some face-to-face, I think has always been helpful for me, meeting people, because I am not, the extrovert, I am the introvert. So that's uncomfortable for me. But I think that's helpful. And then the other thing, I think teaching them about networking and LinkedIn, I think is really important as well, because they need to understand how to connect to people to kind of get that interaction so that they can get hired, because there's a lot of competition out there and they have to figure out a way to stand out and know some folks on the inside.
Yeah, and this is a great opportunity to plug next week, Palm Beach Tech's Career Expo, right? This is a great opportunity to connect with a bunch of people talking about careers and job opportunities. So, if you don't know about it, July 15th, this is a workshop leading towards that. So I think that would be a good opportunity to make those connections and set up those networks.
Thank you for that, Todd. The Career Expo will have internship opportunities, right, Nikki? Yeah, okay. Yeah, there will definitely be internship opportunities. So you should definitely check that out or let your students know. But we have another question. What are some of the major degree paths or careers in tech that I can educate my students about? There are so many times I don't even know where to start.
That is a great question. Career paths is there's so much out there, right? It's hard to understand, but I actually, Joel Lord, who's this great guy who works for Red Hat, he came down recently and gave a talk at Boca JS, and he likened a system, like a computer system, a computer application, to a restaurant, right? And if you think about a restaurant, you come into the front of the restaurant and you're greeted by people, a host and waiters, and you sit down at a table and you order, and somebody goes into the back and brings you food. And, the person in the back is maybe going into a freezer or refrigerator storage. There's all these workers, some of whom you see, some of whom you don't see, more behind the scenes. And that's very much the way computer applications work. There's all of these workers working on different parts of an application, some that are more on the front end that the user sees, some that are more behind the scenes, going and getting data, storing data, working on that storage. And there's so many jobs to be had on all of those. And there's the person who builds the whole thing, who manages the whole thing. So, everything down to designing what the menu looks like and, how to set the table. So I think, maybe using some kind of simpler analogy like that can get a student to thinking, well, I want to be the person in the back that's, cooking the dishes, so to speak, or, cooking the meals, and not the one serving them. It may be easier to make that kind of analogy. But I think, for you, it's just a matter of educating yourself. In terms of career paths in colleges, they're starting to get better about this. Like when I went through, there was just a computer science degree, and that was your only option. And you had to take all these courses before you could get to the good stuff. And, that's why a lot of people are in these fields are opting not to take the traditional university route and are going to boot camps and code schools where they can get more, specified training without having to go through years and years and years of boring classes to get to the good stuff.
Some of the things that I like, because there is so much to know, and people don't understand the front end and the back end and all that sometimes. There are courses out there that kind of give you kind of a high level education about what is all this stuff, right? Like maybe one of the courses I took was Introduction to Analytics, right? So that you could kind of understand the difference between machine learning and optimizations and what are all these different things that I might want to specialize in. Same thing about, you know, general technology, right? Front end development. What is that? Give them a little flavor of each thing so they can kind of get that taste sometimes. Because it's hard to decide, right? With just talking about it. Sometimes you can actually have to try it out a little bit. So if you could come up with some introductory kind of program would be helpful for them.
And just to put in a little plug, we are doing an intro course August 24th at Boca Code. It's a 1-week course where we're going to introduce a little bit of everything to really give that survey. And several of the local code schools, including Ironhack, if you pay your tuition for the intro course and then decide to go on to one of their career courses, they'll apply your tuition towards it. So you can, you know, take this intro course and then choose your path from there and not lose out on any tuition money. And there was a question from Facebook. Somebody asked, you know, if you're in UI/UX and you want to transition to Python, is that considered a career change or an add-on? And I think it was Marcel who asked that. And so I wanted to address that, specifically. And I think, Marcel, you can look at it either way. You know, there's one of the things that we're doing is we're teaching our students, our developer students, some UI/UX, because it's important for them to understand that. You're coming from the other side. You know UI/UX and you want to go into development. So, you know, the question is, do you want to become a developer that also knows UI/UX, which some people call a unicorn? Or do you want to stick with UI/UX but have the ability to do some of the coding? If it's the latter, right? If you want to stick with UI/UX but know some coding, that's an add-on, right? If you want to shift over to coding and be one of those unicorns where you're a programmer that knows UI/UX, which are rare and in demand, then you know, it's a bit of a career shift, but it should be a relatively easy one because you're in tech and you're going into tech. You know, so it's just a matter of learning the development in the Python.
Yeah, I was going to say that is definitely a unicorn that I'd be looking for as a hiring manager. It is so hard to find someone who knows both. And I think it's definitely, you know, whether it be a career change, I think it's an add-on overall to have both. And you would definitely high in demand. You know, just to touch on the question earlier, I think, you know, as someone who went into bioinformatics, it's something I didn't really know existed, and I didn't really correlate it with technology, and it really is. And I think it's really high in demand. You rarely find someone who knows development and healthcare terminology. It's another unicorn. So these are areas that as educators, it would be wonderful if you can, you know, expose these students to as early as possible.
Yeah, I cannot even count the number of times in my life I've come across a career that I had no idea existed, right? Like that. And, you know, like I told you in my path, I was in college and I learned about ice cores. I didn't know those existed. I didn't know there was a career, you know, where you could study ice cores and learn about the Earth's climate history. And so when I went into that, I was also one of these people. They didn't have anyone that knew computer programming, and they had all this data to analyze. They had 3D data surveys of glaciers, but they couldn't turn them into 3D models and model the change in them. So, you know, you could find those, you know, yourself as a unicorn in a lot of different ways.
Awesome. So what do you think some of the basic baseline skills our graduates need to possess to be ready to step into tech jobs? Working as part of a team, creating project proposals, understanding the ins and outs of an email client, meeting deadlines. How hard should our teachers be hammering those types of skills in our classes, or are there others?
I would say definitely working on a team. I don't know a developer today that has ever worked alone. You know, whatever aspect you're working on, UI, you're always working on a team. So definitely team skills. One thing that I think is really important is documentation. I don't really know if they teach that in, early on, how to document whatever it is that you have developed. And I think it's really important for developers to have that skill, because that's something they're going to have to do for the rest of their life after, college. So definitely documentation, technical documentation, team skills. That's where really the soft skills come in, is really knowing how to, talk through, requirements coming from a business owner. It's not just, develop this tool. This is the requirements. Now you tell me and give me your technical feedback on how that could be developed as well. So I think that's really important.
Yeah. And just to add on to that, I don't think it hurts to have some knowledge of projects, kind of how projects work, like agile project management. We have to deliver things, right, every so many weeks or whatever. And they have to kind of get into that routine of, how do I chunk it up into small chunks so that I can make deliverables? It's not a bad skill to have. I'm not sure they need it right out the gate, but once they get into business, they're going to run into that.
If I had the opportunity to go back to work with my middle school students again, and which I was teaching them, we did some, this is going to age me a bit. I mean, you guys know my age, but we were doing Flash. They were making games in Flash. I think one of the biggest skills you guys can work on, the teams, that's huge, because as Meggie said, we do work a lot in teams. Patience, persistence, and then learning how, like Kathy said, to chunk things. But really, I see it on an even smaller scale than what Kathy said, is when you're given a task, it could seem insurmountable, right? Like the famous, how do you eat an elephant, right? One bite at a time. So when you're given a task, to be able to chunk it down, break it into parts, and work on just one part, and then attack the next and the next. So being able to give the students a large task, and then step back and say, okay, how do we break this up into smaller tasks that we can attack, which can also be something that they do as a team, right? You have a big task, a big project to complete, break it up into smaller tasks, assign those tasks out, and then each, accomplish those. So there's a lot of ways of doing this in a realistic, real world type way in a classroom.
Yeah, and if I can add there too, I actually agree with all the comments said on this, because I'm getting a lot of questions and comments about this topic in private chat as well. For anybody that is interested more in this and kind of how to learn those like everyday skills in like a work setting, we are actually having on, I think it's August 6th, all about work-based learning and kind of learning those skills that you would in a work setting. So that might help just to answer some questions there too in that discussion.
Awesome. Thank you, Nikki. And it is August 6th. Okay. So we're getting close to time, but I have a couple more questions. One says, I've noticed that many of my students interested in tech can often be more quiet or shy, but they are extremely smart. How do I begin to get them out of their comfort zone and increase confidence in wanting to get out and meet people, look for projects or jobs, etc.?
I want to take that. I'm very shy. It's hard, right? Especially when you are the introvert and you're shy and you're not the one to just talk, right? But I would, and that is a thing that you have to force yourself to learn, right? Because it's very important, because people don't know what's in your head. They don't know what you're thinking and how smart you are. So you have to kind of force yourself, take a deep breath, just kind of put yourself out there a little bit to make sure that people kind of understand the value that you have. And for the networking, it helps to have somebody to go with you. It's really hard, especially for a shy person, to walk into a big room where they don't know anybody, right? And kind of start to meet people. Get a buddy, and that helps a lot, right? So somebody, maybe an extrovert even, right? To kind of help you, but don't be too intimidated, right? Everybody's scared to go out there. It's not just you.
but don't cling to that buddy.
Yes,
Right?
agreed.
I was hoping Kathy would take this since she said she was an introvert, but I also, one of the things that I found, I was a nerd. I was the nerd in high school. I went to, I wasn't playing sports. I was competing in computer programming challenges and math challenges. I was a nerd. And one of the great things about the tech community is we're all nerds, right? It's a very friendly, it's a very welcoming, warm and open community, very supportive, and we're all nerds here. So for all the nerds out there, welcome, and don't be shy and come and talk nerdy with us.
Yeah, and something to add is just, we're in a new time today that, everything is accessible on social media. And remember, the students today that's what they're used to. Everything's at their fingertips. And so LinkedIn, like Todd was saying earlier, I mean, this is the time now to really be going on LinkedIn. I mean, all the CEOs of all companies are active on LinkedIn, especially now because everyone's home, working from home. So I would say challenge them to go on LinkedIn, challenge them to make new connections, even to start there. Because that may be more comfortable, because that's how that generation is communicating today. But yeah, I mean, it's definitely leveraging the social media platforms that they have.
Okay, awesome. So we're just about at time, but what would be your last piece of advice to our STEM teachers and students you would like to leave everyone with?
To be successful in IT, you have to keep learning. You have to take initiative. You have to kind of have that desire to constantly learn and constantly keep up. I think that has been the thing that actually helps me the most, because I love to learn and I get bored if I don't learn. And in this industry, it's really, really important.
I would add to that, part of learning is working with other people, having mentors, and having, just in general, having a network, I think is extremely important in this industry. So getting connected to a larger network. I know a few people in this field that have worked in isolation for many years. And then when they come down here to Palm Beach, to the Palm Beaches, to South Florida, and they see this community, it's a little overwhelming to them at first, but they realize what they've been missing and all of the opportunities that are here.
I would, give advice that was given to me that I think today is so valuable. Don't chase the money, chase the dream, and find a niche that you're passionate about within, tech, because it's such a large industry, but you need to stand out and you need to be different in your skills. And, like Todd said, the unicorns are so hard to find, but it's not impossible. So it's just a lot of hard work, and, expose yourself to different things and find something that, drives you and that you're passionate about, whether it be healthcare or UI or middle layer or back-end development, but definitely find a niche.
Awesome. I think that's all great advice. And I thank all of you for what you've brought to us today. Nikki?
Thank you, Allie. So I'm just going to help kind of close this out here. I just wanted to make sure that all of our teachers, students, anybody that are on this morning, that you guys have the information for our next events. I'm actually going to drop a link in chat. It was just a post that I did on LinkedIn, which I know that Tony, Lisa, Lito, you guys can share as well, the flyers and everything. But our next one is, let me pull this up really quick, make sure I don't get it wrong, is our video conferencing tips and tricks. It's going to be next week, also on Thursday at 10. So July 16th, all about, I think we have Teams, Google Meet, and Zoom, if I'm correct. So that you guys can have a little bit of tips and tricks around that and how to work more successfully remotely. But I think that's all we have so far. If anybody has any questions or wants more information, please feel free to reach out to anybody that was on here today. I'm actually dropping my email in chat as well, just in case. And I think that's all we've got. So thank you everybody for joining this morning. And I really appreciate all the speakers and all of our partners as well this morning as well.
Nikki, I got one thing I want to add real quick.
Of course.
And I'll just reiterate this at the end of all of our webinars that we do. Quite a few of our teachers need in-service points for participating. Part of the whole rigmarole and routine that our teachers are going to have to do before school starts is complete 6 hours of online sort of preschool training. So this qualifies as one of those. There is a course associated with the event that you just witnessed in our e-learning management system. So teachers, make sure that if you haven't already done so, you go on to e-learning and you register for this course. Our e-learning management system in Palm Beach County is atrocious, and I'm being nice about it. It's really hard to find courses. So if any of you have any issues finding that course on e-learning, please reach out to me. The courses will be open until December 31st. You got plenty of time to do this, but I want you to get your in-service points for participating. And thank you all so much from Palm Beach County Schools and also from Palm Beach Tech. This was awesome, folks.
Thank you so much, Tony. I actually did not realize that myself. So that is absolutely awesome. So thank you. All righty, guys. Thanks so much. And hopefully we'll see you soon on the next one as well.
I have
Thanks,
a quick
everyone.
question. I have a quick question.
Yes.
I know you're leaving. My name is Milankovic. I'm a teacher at Broward. So this in-service point that they just mentioned is only for the Palm Beach teachers. That's not for Broward teachers, correct?
Correct. I can only help out the Palm Beach school teachers, but I'm sure there's something in place
That
for
question
you.
was going to come as soon as you said that, Tony. It is
there.
not set up in our system, Seema. I'm sorry. No. So, and it's also not enough time, even combined with all of it, to get points in our system.
Okay.
It has to
Okay,
be a
just
lot.
curious. Yeah, no worries. Thank
Sorry.
you. Thank you so much.
Good enjoy.
You're welcome. All right. Thanks, everybody.